pure minds that are free from what? Vanity. This kid's head is filled with vanities. And until his mind becomes pure, he's not going to see that this is the best story. Right? The fact that he doesn't see it as the best story is a proof that his mind hasn't been what? Hasn't been cleansed yet. It's dirty. It's full of garbage, fluff. And this is stuff like, mashallah, if you think it's hard to memorize Qur'an or it's hard to remember a lot of Islamic knowledge and you think that's impressive, it's not. Because you guys know so much about an actor and how many babies they adopted, or what color they dyed their hair in what year, and you know so much about what happened in what episode in what show. You know so much about the sports statistics, some of you guys, right? Free throw averages and touchdown averages and how many playoff victories and how many years. We have all this useless, absolutely worthless knowledge. And it's there to make small talk. In the end, the only reason we have this information is to make small talk with each other. Sometimes this useless knowledge is something it's something useful in and of itself, but we get obsessed with it, like cars or technology or the new app or whatever it may be, But our heads are filled with so much of this useless stuff. It's a testimony that it could have been filled with useful stuff too. We just didn't want it to. We thought this was a better use of our mind. Allah gave us such an amazing thing, and it's being used for such junk. Right? The mind is an incredible thing. In a hadith, the Prophet says, "Ma khalaqa Allahu khalqan akrama alayhi min al-aql." Allah didn't create anything more noble than the intellect. That's what he says in the hadith. It's an amazing. This mind of ours is an amazing thing. And imagine how sad it is how it's being put to use. I went to this kid's house one time, and he was playing. I think it was Final Fantasy 9, 10. What's the new one out? You guys got to keep up. Anyway, so he's playing Final Fantasy. This is a role-playing game. It's obviously a Japanese game, and this kid's got like menu, sub-menu, category, subcategory, weapon, sub-weapon, which bullets to use, which monster gets hit with which weapon, and he's going through walkthroughs which are like 50 pages long on a website, right? It's like a whole course he's taking on playing a video game. And I'm remembering, man, in the early 1800s when I was playing video games, this is what a video game was. Bong. This was a video game. Now it's gotten so complicated. So much knowledge, useless knowledge, is necessary to even entertain yourself, right? Even with cartoons back in the early part of the last century, it was a cat running after a mouse. That was a cartoon. Now you got like Yu Yu Hakusho and all these complicated shows with these complicated cards. I used to teach at an Islamic school. These kids had cards. You ever seen those? They started with Pokemon cards and those other kinds of cards. Yu-Gi-Oh cards, right? Those things. And of course, they all have a different shaitan on them. These kids got that, and these kids, they watch this, they read this stuff, and they get lost in that world of these shows, right? So these two kids get into a fight, and he takes out one of his cards and he throws it at the other guy. And you know why he threw it at him? Because he was thinking, out of that card, a monster is going to come out and chop his head off, right? That's what he really started believing it. He got messed up in the head, this kid. Throwing a card at another guy, And now it's funny, but it's also very disturbing. That this mythology and these weird, twisted, demonic, satanic beliefs have now become entertainment. My kids are just watching cartoons, right? But you guys are above that. You're obviously this audience, most of it is older than that. What's your big problem? Your big problem is the entertainment industry, music industry. And within that, the thing that's destroying your character, for you even the minor problem is useful information. You know what the major problem for your age is? Overexposure to shamelessness. Shamelessness in how people talk to you, what kinds of things you hear in school, the kinds of language people use, vulgarity, foul language, disgusting things, the kinds of social networks you're involved in, and the kinds of pictures your friends post on them. These are the kinds of things, and movies, and the kinds of things that you're exposed to in movies constantly. It's not even once in a while. Every day, constantly, you're exposed to this stuff, and you know what happens to you? And at first, maybe you felt a little disturbed when you saw something shameless, vulgar. You heard some foul language. But you know what happens over time? You get used to it. That's the first thing that happens. And then what happens over time? You don't feel so bad when you use it yourself. And then what happens over time? You don't feel so bad when you do the very thing you were watching. You're tempted to do it yourself. Right? You're going from being a decent human being down to becoming an animal. That's really what's happening. An animal has no control over what it says. An animal has no control over what it does. It feels an instinct, it follows it. That's it. That's an animal. But Allah made us human beings. And you know what's the difference between human beings and an animal? It's the intellect. And in Arabic, the word intellect is aql, which literally means a means of restraint and control. If you can't control yourself, you don't even have intellect. And if you don't have intellect, you're not even a human. You're just an animal walking around in human form. That's all you are. Right? So Allah says, you want to become a person of knowledge? Become a person of pure mind. So you'll retain your humanity. I tell you, like my teacher says all the time, most people on the face of this earth, especially in high school, are animals walking around under human garb. This is where you lose your humanity. When you reach this age, you lose your humanity. Brothers lose men lose respect for women. Women lose respect for themselves. You lose respect for society, your parents, the elders, wisdom. You lose respect for everything. You become what I like to call the whatever culture. Everything you hear, you know what your first response is? Whatever. How was the speech? Whatever. What do you say? Whatever. What do you think? Whatever. Your whole life becomes whatever. You're apathetic to everything. And you know why that is? It's a sign. That's the last thing I want to talk about, and I'm done, inshallah ta'ala. That's a sign of the ultimate problem. The ultimate problem isn't shamelessness. The ultimate problem is not useful information. Those are minor problems compared to the ultimate problem. You know what the ultimate problem is? Ego. That's the ultimate problem. You're obsessed with who? Yourself. You can't get over yourself. You're obsessed with how you look. You're obsessed with what people say about you. You're so egotistical, you become, that if somebody says something really powerful and amazing, you can't even, it's below your ego to show emotion. So you know what you have to say? Whatever. Even if you feel something on the inside, say, yeah, okay, it doesn't bother me. It's not talking about me. You're too hard. You're too, tough. You're full of too much pride to show that this has effect on you. But the people of real knowledge, when they heard knowledge, you know what used to happen to them? They used to cry their heart out. This is described in the Qur'an, and they fall on their face in sajda. يَخِرُّونَ لِلْأَذْقَانِ يَبْكُونَ. They fall on their faces and they're crying. But you get filled, you get so inflated with your ego. Your ego comes from how you look, what your status is, what people say about you, how popular you are, how good you think you look, how smart you think you are, how much money you think you have, what kind of car your parents drive or you start driving soon. Right? These are just symbols of ego, and you get inflated. And by the way, what was the ultimate problem of shaitan? How many haram things did he do? So he gets to be called shaitan. Right? Well, how many people did he kill or murder? Or what kind of crimes did he do that he gets to be called shaitan? Yeah, ego. He had an ego problem. Why him? What's this? Dust, clay, man. Fire right here. He said whatever. Basically. That's what he said. Make sajda, whatever. Right? That's the ultimate ego problem. So whose footsteps are we following? Allah says, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. And guess what? That's the biggest problem of our youth today. Yourself.
Excuse me, how about I don't care?
That's very well said. I don't see this apathy, this distancing yourself from emotion, responsibility, distancing yourself from actually even your own self. This is actually a deeply spiritual problem that is faced by our youth. And when that happens, it's easy for you to turn to an animal. That's really what's happening. And you aren't being told that enough. You're not being told that enough. Nobody's there to tell you, listen, your friends are turning you from a noble human being into nothing more than an ornate animal. That's what they're turning you into. So you need to change your company. You're not being told that enough. And so the people around you are your destruction. So, and that's really what I wanted to get at in the end, inshallah. There's three major problems